Before we go into learning part B with the left hand, I just need to show you a comparison between part A and part A prime. Part A prime starts with the same phrase as part A. And then it goes to an altered version of phrase 4 from part A. And just in case you don't know, A prime, that's written as A apostrophe, and that's just the way you pronounce that if you're in the European classical music culture. Okay, so the altered version of phrase 4 in this part A prime is like this. At the end of the first measure of this phrase, instead of going to finger 1 in the right hand, like I did at the beginning of the piece, we go to finger 2 because we are not going to go as high as we did in part A. Part A, phrase 4, did this. But part A prime, phrase 2, which is a modification of phrase 4, goes like this. So because it's not going to go so high, you don't need to have finger 1 on the last note of measure 1 of this phrase. Just use finger 2 instead, and finger 2 will be close to the D sharp that you need for the third measure. Play finger 2 on the D sharp, and I recommend playing finger 2 on D sharp, then finger 1 on E, and then finger 3 on F sharp. Those are the notes you'll need. D sharp, a step higher, and a step higher to F sharp. 2, 1, 3, 2. I switch from finger 3 on F sharp to finger 2 on F sharp because I'm about to play these keys. Measure 4 of this phrase is G sharp, A, B. I recommend playing with fingers 3, 4, and 5. Different people will often pick different fingerings, so my fingerings are an opinion, but it's an opinion I really like, and I have reasons for picking these fingerings, and I've developed those reasons over years of teaching and learning music, so I like them. You can take them or leave them, but I hope you'll at least try the fingerings I recommend. So again, measure 3 and 4 of this phrase is two, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. You may notice that a little while ago I mentioned whether these notes were stepping. D sharp, step up, repeated note, step up, step up, step up. That would be those 3 measures mentioning the steps the whole time. Beginners will often be fixated on saying the letter names of the keys that they're playing. D sharp, E, F sharp, but I don't. I think it really slows people down. I've mentioned it before. I think you can get really confused naming all the letters of the keys you're playing, and it can turn into kind of an alphabet soup of confusion. So I recommend focusing instead on the fingers, focusing instead on the positions, and focusing instead on whether or not you're doing steps and skips. Here's phrase 2 of part A prime. And here's the left hand for part A prime, phrase 2. Those first two measures in the left hand are the same as part A, phrase 4, but now comes the change. On the paper, you can see that this space note is beneath 2 ledger lines. If you are remembering the 5 basic C's, you might remember that middle C is on a ledger line beneath treble staff or above bass staff. Bass C is on a space note that is third from the top inside of the bass staff. And low C is a line note that is on the second ledger line beneath the bass staff. And if you remember those and how to read them on the paper, you can figure out your low notes a lot easier, because this is a space note right below 2 ledger lines below the bass staff, and it's going to be B. The keys you'll need for this third measure are A with finger 3, B with finger 2, and D sharp with finger 1. And then that B7 chord will resolve as expected to E. And then, because the tension of the piece is not completely resolved, Chopin uses an E7 chord. Because the right hand used a G sharp earlier, that might be the reason why Chopin left out G sharp in the chord. G sharp would be the leading tone of A minor, and there are some old rules about picking which notes to use in a chord, and one of them involves leaving out the leading tone in your chord sometimes because it sounds good. Okay, here's phrase 4 again. I'll start on the 3rd and 4th measure. Oh, I keep calling it phrase 4 because it's an altered version of part A, phrase 4, but for part A prime, it's really phrase 2. You can call it either way. I just hope you know what I mean whenever I misspeak. Here's the 3rd and 4th measures of this second phrase of part A prime. And here's the entire phrase. Good luck learning it. I'll play it now at a regular tempo, and you can try it home. And now I'll play the first 2 phrases of this part, and I add an extra note that's not on the score. I go ahead, when I play phrase 1 of this part, I add an E so that it is in agreement with the first phrase of the whole piece. I'm leaving you a little bit on a cliffhanger there, but I'll see you next time for part B. We'll start learning the left hand for part B. Good luck.